the difficulty with figuring out your messaging when it comes to building your personal brand or your media machine, or like, is that you don't know exactly what's going to resonate with the audience until you put it out there. And that's why I think quantity actually leads to quality. Because as you put out the messaging and you scattershot and you say, because your business doesn't just solve one problem, right? Like you don't just solve one thing. You're not monofaceted. There's many sides to everybody. And you're not sure exactly which one is going to hit and resonate until you put it out there, and then you judge the results. You look back at the analytics and you say, oh, people, when I say this, or I use this sequence of words, or I use that story, people really lean in. I didn't experience that until I started playing with ADHD in my content and hyperfocus. Those didn't really have anything to do with my business at the time, but I was trying to figure out a way to create a magnet that would attract people to me. And to attract people, you kind of have to stand out and be different than everybody else, right? Because if you have the same message, if you're the same magnet with the same pull towards the same goal as everybody else, then that person's not going to get pulled towards any one of those. And so you need to stand out and be kind of unique within your space and be this, not a more powerful magnet saying just the same thing as everybody else, just more loudly. You have to be saying something different entirely, because it's better, instead of being number one, is just to be completely unique, right? Don't even compete against everybody else. Go find that thing that makes you stand out. And that's your story. But you don't exactly know which parts of your story or your message really resonate with people until you tell it a whole lot of different ways. And I stumbled into something with ADHD and hyperfocus, where when I started talking about how I turned my ADHD into a superpower, that people started going, I resonate with that very deeply. And then it connected them with me to hear everything else I was saying about entrepreneurship, about personal development, about self-mastery, all these other aspects, right? And it wasn't until I unlocked that one piece of the messaging that it all kind of fell into place about what the media machine was about, what my unique magnet is. And I think sometimes we try too hard to control and build from the top down. We try to logic our way and say, oh, if I use this sequence, these words, this makes me sound pretty unique. We try to like overly orchestrate it rather than the organic bottom-up approach, which is you try a whole lot of different things, you put out a lot of different messaging, and you see what resonates, not just with your audience, by the way, but with yourself. Because there will be topics that, for whatever reason, once you start talking about it, you light up and you have the different energy. And I found that about myself when I started talking about hyperfocus and about attention and about focus and about these issues that I had with ADHD, that the passion that I had, because it was so deeply emotional for me, started to come through. The delivery was different, start to hit people different, and they started to lean in as a result. Very different than when I was telling different stories that maybe I didn't have the same emotional impact for myself on. And so I think initially when people are trying to figure out, okay, I want to bolt on a media empire or a media machine onto my business, how do I do that? The mistake is to try to over-engineer it from the beginning and say, this is exactly the brand position and the message, and this is what we stand for, and these are all our values. And instead, go and create your story Bible. Create a story Bible where you list out all the different things that have happened to you in your life. And then you look and you plumb the depths of your experiences to figure out what are the commonalities, what are the through lines. Oh, when I was 12, this thing happened. My grandfather took me to this place and we did that. And as a result, here's the lesson that I learned. Here's the value that instilled in me, right? You go and you find all those stories, and then you just start sharing them within the context of your business, your product, your service. And then you find the angle that goes, oh, that's the one. People leaned in, they liked that, and I liked delivering it. And then that becomes a piece of your unique value proposition. It's time consuming, it's harder, it requires a lot of deep reflection, and it requires you throwing a lot of spaghetti at the wall to see what's gonna stick. But I think it's the best way to stumble on the serendipity of you and find those moments where it's like, man, if I hadn't told that story in this way, just because I was okay to experiment with it, I never would have realized that people, they resonate very deeply with that concept. For instance, I just told you about the story Bible. I did not know that story would play such a big role in my life. And until I started talking about oh, when I needed to get out of that van, what did I start doing? I started writing. I started telling stories. It wasn't until I got into my first business and tried to grow it. What did I do? Oh, I started knocking on doors and tried to sell people. What is that? And that's really just storytelling, right? I didn't see it until I started to plumb my experiences. And then when I started sharing it with people, what I realized was, holy crap, I'm really passionate about this. I love the impact that story can have on people's lives and how you have the ability to change your life by simply becoming a better storyteller, both to the external world, but also to yourself. The stories you tell yourself become your reality, right? And that's why we say story is the source code of the human experience. I never would have known that if I had just tried to cerebrally from the top down say, this is what my brand is and these are all the unique things. It came as a result of just talking about a whole lot of different things and just seeing where I naturally gravitated and then where the audience gravitated towards me. And so we gravitated towards each other like we were, complementary magnets attracting one another. And that right there is how you build a truly magnetic brand. So if you're struggling with your messaging, it's probably that you haven't tried enough stuff yet. Throw more spaghetti at the wall, see what resonates with you, see what your audience seems to resonate with, and then do more of that thing. That's the secret.